Hi, I'm Weimin 10. I'm a Manhattan condo broker, and this is about what are your expenses as a property owner in Manhattan, New York. This is the opening slide, and it's an example of one of our clients' properties. And this happens to be one that we are selling right now, and we staged it, and it looks amazing. And this shows the power of staging. I wish I could show you the before photos, but this is the after photos, and we brought in a professional stager, and the apartment just looks amazing. It's like a showroom. The quality of the furniture is very high, and it totally magnifies the wow factor of the apartment. The apartment faces south, it has great water views, and it just looks great. The middle photo here is the kitchen of the same apartment, and you can notice that it's a very high-end kitchen, and the other details here. Look at this little planter here, and there are some towels here above the stove. These are all the minor touches that play a big role in the staging process. And the photo on the right here is the same apartment, the bathroom. Look at this this wooden board. I don't know what this is called, but it's pretty common, especially in new developments, where they have this on the bathtub, and there's a plant here, and there's nice towels. Staging is so important because it gives context, and it lets people feel how the apartment is going to be like when it's their home. So anyway, that's an example, and let's go on to the presentation. What are the expenses? There are two categories of expenses. One is the closing costs, which is one time. When you are buying the property, there's all these one-time costs, which in New York are called closing costs. And the other category of expenses are the ongoing expenses. So let's talk about the closing costs when you are buying. The biggest expense is the mansion tax, and the mansion tax applies to properties that are 1 million and above. So there's a scale from 1 to 2 million, it's 1%. From 2 to 3 million, it's 1.25. From 3 to 5, it's 1.5, and from 5 and above, it's 2.25. So mansion tax would be the largest cost item when you're buying. The second expense is the mortgage tax. So this is only applicable if you are getting a mortgage loan, and it's roughly about 2% of the loan amount. So if you're buying cash, there wouldn't be a mortgage tax. And then there's the title insurance. The title insurance is the insurance you pay, which is one time, that ensures that there is clean title, which means that the seller has the right to sell the property, and when you buy it, when you become the owner, the property is rightfully yours, and the title insurance company would insure against the potentiality of, let's say, someone coming 5 years later to say, hey, that's actually my property. So that's what a clean title means. The seller has clean title, and the seller has a right 100% to sell the property to you. So when you own the property, you own the property, and that's the insurance to make sure that you own the property. Then there's transfer taxes. Transfer taxes are only applicable if you're buying new development. It's not applicable if you're buying resale. When you're buying resale, transfer taxes are paid by the seller. But in Manhattan, when you're buying a new development directly from the developer, the buyer pays the transfer taxes. So what it means is that when you are buying a new development, your closing costs essentially doubles, because you have to pay the transfer taxes and some smaller other expenses. But when you're buying resale, let's say you're buying cash, it depends on the price point, right? Because the mansion tax depends on the price point. Roughly, it's going to be between 2 to 4% of your purchase price if you're buying cash and if you're buying a resale. But if you're buying a new development, it doubles. Okay, so from maybe 2 to 4% if you're buying resale, if you are buying a new development, and if you don't negotiate the concessions well and so forth, you'll be paying double that because you have to pay the transfer taxes. What if you are buying with a mortgage? When you're buying with a mortgage, there's a mortgage tax. So your closing cost is roughly about 6 to 7.5% of the loan amount. Why am I saying loan amount? Because the mortgage tax is a function of the loan. So I'm basically converting everything into a function of the loan. So if you're buying with a mortgage, it's going to be about 6 to 7.5% of your loan amount. But if it's a new development, then it's double that. Right? Then you have the other expenses, but the other expenses are smaller. The other expenses are the recording taxes, your attorney fees, and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are the closing costs at purchase. Now there's ongoing expenses, which are the expenses you pay on a monthly basis while you own a property. The first one is the common charge, then there's the property taxes, and the common charges and property taxes are gauge based on the size of the apartment. So building by building they would differ. That is why when we look at buildings, we look at the carrying costs to see whether one building is more expensive from a carrying cost perspective versus less expensive from a carrying cost perspective. There's no formula, so that's why we have to evaluate building by building. What's reasonable? Probably about $2.70, like $2.70 per square foot per month when you combine both common charges and property taxes. If it's $3 and above, it's considered high. If it's, let's say, $2.70 and below, it's considered good. Good means it's on the low side, right? Common charges would be to pay for the staff of the building, the repairs in the building, the maintenance, and so forth, right? So, and common charges globally relative to the other cities in the world would be high in Manhattan, because here the salaries are higher and usually there's a lot of staff in the building. Property taxes is just what you pay to the government, and it's New York City's main source of revenue. So those are the two big ones. And then there's the insurance, but the insurance is cheap. It's something you pay on an annual basis. It's probably between $600 to $1,500 per year, right? Then you have the miscellaneous expenses, and those will be smaller. So these are the ongoing expenses, and that's it. Those are your two expense categories. This is a brief bio of myself, and thank you for watching.